Hannes Aava is an emerging landscape architect, curator, academic tutor, and columnist specializing in urbanism, landscape architecture, and cultural discourse. With a diverse academic background in landscape architecture, environmental planning, landscape gardening, and art history from universities in the UK, the Netherlands, and Estonia, he founded his practice, Studio Mida Hekki, to design vibrant living spaces and pursue projects at the intersection of landscapes, urbanism, and the arts. And Hannes has already done so many beautiful projects, but I invited him here because in 2023, Hannes initiated Green Tracks, which was a tactical intervention program for Tallinn City when Tallinn was the green capital of Europe. Yeah.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
So, the title that Kaidi provided me with was Tactical Urbanism, Agile Approaches to City Making. A brief intro. Actually, Kaidi already said, I'm a landscape architect. I'm running my own small studio. I also do quite a bit of writing on urbanism, culture, and architecture, landscape architecture. And I'm a lecturer at the Estonian Academy of Arts, where we are also launching a new master program next year, hopefully, on landscape architecture. And I occasionally do some curating. My studies have recently taken me to cities all over the world, all over Europe, London, Wageningen in Netherlands, and Tartu as well, where I met Shimin as a tutor. And it's been a very kind of interesting learning process of urbanism and placemaking. And first of all, maybe a bit about the definition of tactical urbanism, because it actually seems to be a part of a kind of a web of different concepts and notions, and they're all very useful. But there are so many different approaches, and there have been over these past few decades. First, there was urban acupuncture. Then we started talking about tactical urbanism. Then there is placemaking. There is the meanwhile places. And then, of course, the urban interventions, the temporary spaces and temporary placemaking. And these might get us sort of bogged down if we only talk about the definitions. So I'm not going to be focusing on that. I'm rather going to be focusing on what these notions and these actions help us to do. In my opinion, there are like maybe 5 key elements that I would be focusing here, which is reclaiming the space for people instead of infrastructure or instead of cars. Then making places vibrant, safe, and inclusive. Creating places that actually connect people. Creating places that foster communities, and making the urban experience more exciting. I think this final part is very important to me personally, because at one point I realized that I live in a city that to some extent is quite bleak and quite boring. And I started looking at how to maybe change that with my professional path. This is an example that I really love. It's an historical example from the city of New York, which is considered by some people maybe one of the first kind of modern tactical urbanist interventions. This is a play street during a working day, and it was organized by the police department. I think it was 1912. And what makes these play streets very special, in my opinion, is because these were some of the first attempts to make the streets safer, vitalize the urban environment and the experience of a very targeted socio-demographical group, in this case kids, and then to mitigate the over-privatization of motorized vehicles, because the city realized that during the working day, some of the streets were completely empty. And then experiment and play with urban functions. And I love this photo. This is a later photo from the 70s where a police officer is playing with the kids on one of those play streets. So it has a long history in New York. And what are the benefits of tactical urbanism or any of the other like these low cost activities that we're talking about? I think some of them are have to do with doing things with less time, less red tape. For example, the examples we're showing in Tallinn, these all were done without building permits. So that helped us save a lot of time. Then the budgets are smaller, the risks are smaller, and it's less effort to return things to original state if the experiment is deemed a failure or it needs to be for some other reason to be returned to the original state. And addressing some of the key topics then, I titled this Reclaiming the Streets, but it could be Reclaiming the Places. You could switch that word with anything. And I think one of the most important aspects is just to replace underused infrastructure with something more meaningful. It's not a secret that many of tactical urbanism projects deal with car infrastructure because they just generate non-places. They're just so bleak and boring, and they have problematic issues such as the urban heating effect. But there's a long list of those effects. Then supporting activities for culture events. This is a very beautiful example from Paide that hosts the Opinion Festival in the summer. And this was one of the first projects in Estonia where the whole city center was blocked off to cars, and of course there was a very fierce debate how the society is going to collapse because of that. None of it's happened. I think the photos speak for themselves. It was a huge success and led to other success stories. This then the third point: provide temporary use and vibrancy for underused infrastructure and places. This is also beautifully highlighted by the project in Tartu, the car-free avenue, that turns one of the biggest avenues, a Stalinist-era 50-meter wide street, into a vibrant urban summer festival that goes on for a month or so. Then these projects also communicate social messages just through the medium itself, space. And this is Tallinn's equivalent to the Urban Street Festival idea. I think this was the second edition in 2022. I chose this image particularly because to kind of exemplify how we used art in this case to kind of highlight the message of the whole project. This is an exhibition we made on a junction on car infrastructure, and it's the exhibition itself is on traffic signs, traffic posts, and the content is showing how we should prioritize different ways of mobility. So it's like an anti-car message that is shown on a street on traffic signs. Then the second big topic I'd like to talk about is creating places that connect people. Almost sounds like a cliche, but I think it's highly important. Some of the projects here are featured in the Green Tracks project that was part of the Tallinn's European Green Capital program in 2023. I had the honor of curating or project managing this Green Tracks project that was taking place all over the city. There were over 70 spatial interventions. And one thing I'd like to highlight is that I'm not pointing out the greenery aspect or enhancing urban greenery here deliberately, because this was like an underlying given in all of the projects, because it was a Tallinn European Green Capital program. And we created meadows, planted thousands of trees, and created urban spaces that would kind of be a place for people to engage with urban nature. And I'm focusing on one of those projects here as a case study, which is the Tallinn Old Town Square pop-up park, just because I have been having a very kind of a close relationship with it, and I've been able to monitor it and make observations which are a bit more difficult with other projects because they are all over the city. And this project takes place in the central Old Town Square, which during summer months is it's an interesting place because it is surrounded by cafes and terraces, but they're all commercial spaces, and there's actually no free seating. And while there are a lot of events there in the summer, half of the time the square is actually kind of empty, and people don't have much to do there. So that's how we came to the idea of maybe creating a temporary park there. And the insights from that project have been that temporary spatial interventions should take ideally place in places which have large social potential. It's not a rule, but this kind of helps to maximize your efforts. And the project should address some of the qualities that are currently lacking in that place. In our case, it was not enough seating, not enough rain cover, not enough activities, and not enough greenery. The greenery aspect is important here because it had kind of an educational layering as well. You can see a woman taking photos there, and you can see one of those white signs. The signs were actually introducing the species we had there, and they also they were also included a call to engage with the plants. So people were encouraged to either smell, taste, or touch the plants. And some of the plants were very kind of had a cultural relevance in that context. We used plants that were used in the medieval cloister gardens in Old Town. Then ideally the design should be multi-purpose use. We included on the left, you can see there's a stage for concerts, and there were organized concerts. There were pop-up concerts during the song and dance festivals. There were yoga classes. There was sunbathing on them. Then we included a pavilion for reading, but it became a place where people said that they just talked to strangers there, which is ideal. It shows that we were at least partly successful. And that also it provided rain cover, which also brought the people together, and you could grab a book or leave your own book there and get a new book back in return. And then, of course, it had various different seating for resting, talking to friends, we could see people sleeping there. Also, an indicator of that you have created a safe place for people. And then there was a lot of people working there, and all these elements could be used elsewhere. So when the park is demolished for winter, then these elements are moved around in the city to new locations. And an important aspect definitely is to analyze the results of your future improvements. With some projects, it's not necessary to do it as we did, because we had Stockholm Environment Institute doing a survey. Shimin was part of that team, if I'm not mistaken, about the spatial awareness, the use and the impacts of the project. And the stories that came out of there were really mind-blowing. It was kind of beautiful to hear that how social actually Estonians can be. And it's always important to break taboos. I think everybody has heard a version of that quote in some contexts. And creating places that foster communities, the third topic, the big topic. The interesting thing with the word community is that it can mean a lot of things, and it can be used in very different contexts. And I think we need to be kind of critical sometimes towards that word, but I think the underlying notion is that I think it is imperative to know who you are working for and who you are working with. So this means you have to meet the potential future users of the place, and ideally you have to engage in a collective design process as much as possible. This is also a Green Tracks project that was made by Studio Collective, a very nice group of young architects. And I had a chance to lead the community meeting sessions, and there were only 2 of them. And I think this is something that ideally in the future I would personally like to pursue kind of deeper, to go into these long sessions where you spend a year or so and then come to a design solution with the community. So this was very kind of rushed. But this project itself turned a parking lot, car infrastructure, turned it into a community area with play elements for kids, a library, then there is a food stand for people to kind of sell their groceries or just organize community meetings. And I think this, from what I've learned, this mostly has been adopted by kids who actively use it. Yeah. And on the right you can see the third most used bus stop in Tallinn, which is the reason why the project was placed there in this location. It's in Lasnamägi, if you don't know that. Then the second notion, maybe to create an impulse to start a discussion about the future of the place. The project we're looking at is the Rubini Square or Rubin Square in Viljandi. And there was an NGO that launched this project to start a discussion about this sort of abandoned square right in the center of the city. You can even see that some of the buildings there are not in use. And the debate, from what I've read from the media, was very lively. A lot of the people, of course, criticizing, but it mobilized the people to say that we need something less temporary and sort of a final solution for the square, which is great. This project was already successful because the people were using it, and it sparked a debate. And And yeah, an important aspect is to curate a lively program usually, because sometimes if you don't do that, people might not show up. This is a Yama Street spatial intervention, also part of the Green Tracks project I mentioned. And from the get-go, the municipality had organized a series of concerts. I think they had people from the community who also kind of took it as their own project to organize more events there. They had some chess tournaments, regular chess tournaments, I believe yoga classes as well. So the project that immediately was bashed by a lot of people in the media, in the end, I think turned out to be more or less a success just because the people started using it. And yes, my conclusion has been that failure is not a problem. Fear to act is. This final notion is particularly important because some of the projects that were part of the Green Tracks program got cancelled just because of political unwillingness. And yeah, that was wasted time, wasted money. And now when you pass by those places that are still in the same state, these non-places, and with this unused potential, then yeah, this is something that leads me to always encourage to do, even if you fail. The failure is a place of learning, actually. Yes, thank you. We'll do questions later. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea because it would address so many different, in my opinion, issues that we have in Estonia. One of them is that we've kind of started growing fearful towards our climate. I think Estonians are engaging with the outdoors in the city way less than people in, I don't know, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki. So this would be an interesting project that would kind of, I see a lot of potential there.
The wind corridors to make it possible for people to enjoy outdoor space even during winter times, because buildings there are actually blocking the wind. But here in Tallinn, if you go to Põhja-Tallinn, to Manufactory Kvartal, where I live, oh my God, walking dog in winter is so hostile. Like you don't have anything, and then you have these two buildings, and then it creates a strong wind corridor. Even take my dog, like the dog can take off anytime, you know. So then, like, if as an architect you do the wind analysis before, and then to see, okay, what is the consequences to put up these new buildings or high rises. I hope that high rises of 200 meters doesn't come. and then to consider whether my buildings in the future can be actually enable the public spaces there, or create more comfortable outdoor environment, or create even wind shelter for those that want to enjoy outdoors.
Yeah, and it's vegetation as well. They use vegetation to block wind tunnels, but yeah, maybe the ultimate tactical urbanist intervention in Tallinn would be to kind of just take trees to the streets in winter, to just show that we want wind-free streets. Yeah.
Have you? I was wondering if you have seen any in these experimentation projects, if you have seen any conflicts, inner conflicts of roles in people, because we are used to, or I at least was used to, like separating car people from pedestrians. But if you think about it, except for kids and elderly people, almost everybody nowadays in Western society is a driver, a cyclist, a pedestrian. So how have you seen people thinking about like that they want stuff, but they want conflicting stuff?
Surprisingly enough, this has usually not come up in the community sessions. There are usually some people who say, yeah, I do both. I cycle, I walk, I drive a car. And usually these projects, most of them weren't in the city center because this is where the parking problem is the most acute. But yeah, we didn't encounter that. One theory is that the people who are the most kind of vocal about defending their car use rights, they just are not interested in these types of projects and they don't show up. But there was always the thing with Estonians. I've heard that it's a thing everywhere in these types of projects, is that if the city goes to meet the community, then the city representative is usually is kind of poured over with some negative emotions that come from elsewhere, but you need to take that kind of those punches in, and then you can start fostering this relationship with these people. But you have to deal with negative emotions that have something to do with problems that are not actually concerning the project, but come from elsewhere. And this was something I was emotionally not prepared to do, but it was a very interesting experience. Yeah.